Today, I'm going to be sharing with you all my ultimate Deadlock guide for ASCENT. ASCENT has become one of my favorite maps to play Deadlock on, and so I'm going to be sharing with you all the lineups that I use, the setups that I use, as well as general Deadlock strategy for ASCENT. Before we get too far into the guide, if you find educational content like this helpful, then please consider leaving a like and subscribing. And if there's a map that you would like to see a Deadlock guide for next, please let me know in the comments down below. So first up, we have GravNet Lineups, and the goal of these lineups is to hit the common spots that the defenders are going to be playing at on sites to help your team have an easier time on executes. And while GravNet alone is good in assisting in getting kills, the real value in these GravNet lineups is going to be comboing it with other lethal utility from your teammates, such as mollies and nades. So the first lineup is going to be for back gen. For this lineup, you need to wait for the barrier to go down, but once it does out here in a main, stand in this corner at the box, aim your crosshair right here along the fracture in the sky, and do a normal left click.
Throwing net.
And the GravNet will cover the entire area around generator. So any of the defenders playing back gen are going to be unable to swing during the execute to fight towards site. So the next lineup is going to be for dice. For this lineup, you're going to stand in the middle of this grate right here. Aim your crosshair along this part of the fracture in the sky and do a normal left click.
Throwing net.
So this GravNet is going to land right behind dice, covering this entire area, which once again is a super common spot for defenders to play at and can easily be comboed with some other utility like an omen blind or some sort of molly or nade. So finally, the last GravNet lineup for executing a site is going to be for heaven around here. So for this lineup, we're going to be standing in this corner at the box and the wall here. Aim at the very tip of this fracture in the sky, but this time you're going to do a jump throw. And for the jump throw, the timing is jumping and then immediately throwing after and not at the same time. Jump throw like this.
No escape.
The net will land on the covered side of heaven. So moving on to GravNet lineups for B site. And first up, we have one that's going to cover stairs here. For this lineup, you want to stand in this corner right here outside B main. Aim at the corner of this metal antenna on the roof. And once again, we're going to be doing a jump throw. So jump and then immediately throw after.
Throwing net.
And the net will cover all of stairs and a little bit in front of CT. So once again, anyone playing stairs and swinging out to fight towards B main, and anyone running out from CT onto B stairs is going to get caught. So the next GravNet lineup for B side is going to be for triple. For this lineup, once again, we're going to be in this corner outside of B main. You want to aim your crosshair at the tip of this crack in the sky and move your crosshair to the right until it's in line with this crack in the sky. So just like this, and do a normal left click.
No escape.
And this is going to cover the entire area around triple. So moving on, I'm going to share with you guys a few barrier mesh lineups, and these are useful for cutting off common retake paths onto site. So the first barrier mesh lineup is going to be for a site, and it's going to land at the door here. For this lineup, you're going to need to wait for the barrier to go down, jump onto the bike and into the corner of these boxes. And you want to aim at the tip of the dark part of this fracture in the sky and do a normal left click.
Barrier deployed.
So the barrier is going to bounce off the wall and land at door here. And not only will this barrier prevent anyone from flooding in through the smoke that's going to be at the door and fast retaking through the smoke, this barrier is also going to prevent any of the front site players from leaving. So it's going to cut off anyone playing around close main, front site here, at the switch, or front gen. So for B site, the barrier mesh lineup is going to be for the market door here. So for this lineup, you're going to need to have B main control. But once you do, you can stand along this line on the box here, aim at this corner of the sign on the wall, and do a jump throw.
Blocking movement.
So the barrier is going to land right in front of market, once again, preventing anyone from swinging out of the market smoke onto the platform here. So moving on, I'm going to be sharing with you guys some defensive setups for both sites, as well as in general, my reasoning for these setups and how I like to play them. So first up, for the sonic sensor tripwires for a site, I always like to throw one around here. So this is going to be one of the most common paths that attackers are going to be taking on their execute onto a site. They're going to be running out of a main and running to close the door here. So if you're playing a spot like Dice, you can easily hide behind cover and then peek once it's activated. Or you can do the same from Gen and see the entire area that the trip is covering. Throwing a trip like this right at the entrance is almost always going to get some value, and especially if it's low enough, an updraft dashing jet isn't going to trigger it, so everyone who has to run out normally is going to get stunned by this. I also like to throw one on bricks sometimes, because sometimes the attackers will path out onto the right side to clear towards Dice. Personally, my favorite trip is going to be right off the side of the generator right here. There's almost always a jet on the other team who's going to be dashing out to make space, and the dash is going to end up landing around here. So if you are anchoring it towards back sight, the jet isn't going to be able to just run around in her smokes and kill you. If the attackers are commonly splitting the site through cat, you can throw a trip here. You can either play off it yourself by playing in garden here, or you can have a teammate playing garden and play off it. But in general, when I'm anchoring a site, I tend to get the most value out of these 4 tripwires here. So generally I'll be playing around these. So as for barrier meshes, if you throw one early enough in a main like this, and it has time to fully build, it can do a good job at buying time for your teammates to rotate. But in general, I find that it almost always will get instantly destroyed on an A rush. If it's an A split, throwing your barrier mesh towards catwalk like this isn't too bad, as generally there's only going to be 1 to 2 people going up cat on a split, and it's going to take them a bit longer to break this. But if I'm anchoring backside and it's going to be an A hit, what I like to do is throw my barrier towards the middle of site. That way it cuts off their pathing and makes their execute onto site a bit more awkward. So for example, somewhere like this to cut off the middle of site between Dice and Gen. So now if you're playing hell like this, you don't have to worry about anyone scaling up mid-site close. You only have to worry about the angle on the opposite side of generator. And from the attacker's perspective, if they're scaling out of a main, to fully clear hell, they're going to have to swing all the way around generator or all the way around Dice. So moving on to B site setups and starting off with the sonic sensors. To get close B main, what I like to do is throw it along the boat here. As you can see, this is going to cover the entire entrance of B main, as well as a bit of the run out. I also like to throw one right here on the switch, because just like on a site, a jet is typically going to be dashing onto the switch, or at the very least, they're going to be pathing out to the switch every round. So this is almost always going to get value. My favorite tripwires though are going to be in lane here. And I like to throw one here. This way, as soon as the attackers make it past this wall, they're going to be stunned jumping out onto site. I like to combo this by placing another one right here. So as the attackers run down lane and they jump onto site, dodging this tripwire, they still jump into another one. So if you're anchoring back site, it's super easy to peek from back here and get some kills. So as for barrier meshes, if it's a B rush and I'm playing close to main like this, what I like to do is throw my barrier like this in lane, because not only will it have time to build on a rush because it's so far around the corner, it's going to prevent the attackers from scaling out lane almost entirely, unless they actually take the time to shoot it, in which case they're a pretty easy target. And with this barrier, they're going to be forced to go towards front site and stairs. So it's going to make their execute take longer, and it's going to give your teammates time to rotate and flood the site from CT here onto stairs. Basically, the goal with the barrier here is just to make the pathing of the attackers take more time, and it's going to be one less line of sight you have to worry about as the anchor. Generally, if I'm throwing my barrier here, I like to throw tripwires towards stairs like this, because this is going to be the new path the attackers take. So finally, the last few things I'm going to show you are a bit more gimmicky, but there's some cool aggressive plays that you can make with barrier mesh and GravNet as a defender. So first up, this is going to be a barrier mesh lineup that lands right here in B main. And the goal of this barrier is to split the attackers. So some are going to be in front of the barrier, some are going to be behind it. And in combination with either some sort of utility or someone with a spam weapon, like an Odin or an Ares at this wall, you can easily keep them trapped in this lane and get some kills. So to throw this barrier mesh, what you want to do is stand along this part of the wall here, aim at this line in window, and do a jump throw once the barrier goes down. So the barrier is going to bounce off the roof and land right in B main. And if you do it fast enough, some of the attackers will be in front of it, some will be behind it. Once again, this is even better if you have some other util to combo it, like a raise nade or some sort of molly. So you can do something similar with the GravNet by standing in the same spot right here. You can aim along the line on the window right here and do a normal left click.
No.
And the GravNet lands in B main here. And once again, in combination with someone peeking B main or using some sort of util through the window like a Sova Shock, you can easily do some damage during a B execute.